Well, my friends, in the theme of legendary people crossing the stage and our awesome Powur Talks, the next gentleman that you are about to meet loves long walks on the beach. He loves swimming with turtles in Maui, right? He has pretty much won every award that we've had. Most of you already know Jordan Peterson, but what you may not know is that Jordan came onto the platform because of the $1,000 ambassador opportunity. Think about that. Those of you who are recruiting ambassadors have the potential to have a sleeper cell like Jordan in your ambassadors already. They just came on for $1,000, and now he has crushed every single one of our contests, our records. The guy is a legend, and he's up here to share with us exactly how to unlock your next level. Please help me give a power welcome to Mr. Jordan Shaw.
You hear me okay? Awesome. Great. So I don't know about you, but I have so much energy today, and I don't know if it's between all the energy management activities we do and the partner announcements, the feature announcements, or if it was Ramsey's performance last night at the award gala. I don't know. If you don't know what I'm talking about, just ask around. Many people have it on camera. What I wanted to talk to you today about is really the limit break and how you unlock your next level. So last night we had the opportunity to, sit down, kind of dress up, actually get some good awards, and recognize some people that are coming up and are up and coming in new markets, as well as industry leaders and veterans in the business as well. And I bet you if you went and talked to every single one of them, they all have something in common. They all had to go through a certain limit break in their life, or maybe several, to get to where they are now, okay? And so what I wanted to talk to you today is about really how you can do that in your life. So let's define what a limit break actually means. Do I have any gamers in the house? Anybody that likes to play some games? Okay, cool, awesome. So in role-playing games or RPGs, game designers a long time ago figured out that in order to have a good passage of time and give you, outside of a good storyline, right, you have to have a good engrossing story in a game, that if the characters didn't self-develop, it felt really kind of flat. And so you have this leveling system within a game like that, and at some point within the game, you're going to have these characters have to come across a foe or an adversary, and they are able to usually traditionally perform a limit break. And in that action is usually a moment where vitality, strength, it turns the tide in the battle traditionally, okay? And so life is no different. You can have these limit breaks within your own life. So what I want to highlight is some of my journey. I'm going to fly through this a little bit quick, but what I want you to do is take a look at some of the areas and see if you can identify where I actually had to have my own limit break. If you don't already know, I actually don't have a solar background. I've been in the industry of IT for a very long time, but you know what? Solar is technology. It's a very easy switch just from my mentality just to move over to that, and I just loved it as a side passion. In 2014, it was what I call my startup phase. I went from working at really large companies down to an actual startup, started traveling the world for better or for worse, because that's a long 6 years away from home. Fast forward to 2020, we had our pandemic. And so the sales cratered at the company, and they decided to get a group of about 40 or so of us on a call, and it was a services team and project management, the delivery guys, right? And they decided, hey, we need you to go ahead and take a 24-hour job offer with a services company that's not US-based, and we're gonna give you a 6-month contract back to this startup. Basically, they were trying to keep the company afloat. And so I can kind of understand why they did that, but after 6 years of just working to build that company, how do you think that made me feel? So in October, they ended up doing what we call, actually it was a reverse stock split. Now, normally when you have a stock split, you make a lot of money. Well, in a startup, you get some RSUs, restrictive stock units, some other things like that, and perks because you have skin in the game. Well, they decided to do a 100,000 to 1 reverse stock split. And yeah, so my equity in the company that time was a little over 130 grand, and they just shredded it and then lit it on fire for good measure. That's really what it was. at that point, we knew something was coming. And in December, I woke up to just a news article saying that the company is being taken over by Google. Needless to say, we definitely were invited to that party. And in fact, it could have been worse, though, because we still were gainfully employed. We had a 6-month contract. Now it kind of went to a month-to-month type thing. But our sales counterparts, who still were with the company, they axed the entire division. They did not take a single person unless they were director and above. And so it definitely could have been worse. I still had a job at that point. Now, as you can imagine, a number of people started looking for new jobs, me included, and all the wonderful acceptance that comes with that and the interview process, right? And so I was trying to look for that dream job. Like, oh, if I could go there, I would be happy. In April, Google came back and said, hey, because some of the leadership that came from our startup had gone over there, so they were talking about me, and they said, hey, we've got a guy with good institutional knowledge, and we want to utilize you in some secretive contract. You can't really tell people what you're doing, but it was basically I was providing support for some of their largest customers. Now, during this whole thing, I was like, okay, looks like that's turning around a little bit. Maybe I'll get a job at Google. Well, my side business and my side hustle that I've been doing so long, getting like $500 referrals, for solar, I could never break my limit there because I was making 6 figures in IT, but it started to grow. And in September, what ended up happening was Powur entered the mix. And then obviously the rest is pretty much history after that. And I started just looking at it just because of the referral program initially. Now, in May, they decided to end my contract. And they did it in a certain way where my wife and I went on a baby moon into Maui. And when I came back, I couldn't log into my computer. It's a great way to find out. Had to email somebody and said, hey, I'm supposed to be back. I handed off a whole bunch of stuff. And he's like, oh yeah, as we discussed, we're going to be freezing your contract. And the irony in this was just a few weeks earlier, that May, I had been at the Impact Journey trip, an inaugural. And I was sitting next to Jonathan Budd, and I was telling him all the stuff that was going on and how I was thinking about leaving this company. But I had a baby on the way in what was supposed to be July. She came in June, and I knew she was going to have a heart surgery 6 months later. And he kind of goes, yeah, but think about what you could do without it. And that planted a seed. And as soon as I didn't have access to anything, and they just kept me kind of on a retainer, I said, I'm flooring it. And in September, fired my boss. So. Can you identify a couple little limit breaks in there, right? I had to go to my next level. So do you think if I had gotten a job when I was doing my job hunting, I was able to go all in? No, still had a salary tying me down. Yes, I was still actively pursuing on the outside of the 9 to 5, but I still had it. Getting out of your comfort zone generates necessity and just really just acceleration out of that, okay? Out of necessity, rather. So how do you do this? So when you're ready to go next level, when you're ready to go all in, you need to realize very, very quickly you need to value your time. And I learned this very, very well from Zachary Bach, who he just preaches this all the time. Time block daily. Like if you don't know what it's supposed to be for on your calendar, it's not happening. You have to time block. If you do not value your time, everybody will walk over you. You need to set working hours. You guys might be okay with working 7 days a week, and that's fine, that's okay. And I know how tempting it is to go and log into your computer at 10 p.m. at night, and because it's quiet, right? You can get more work done, right? I've done it myself. You should set your own working hours and kind of just know how to really limit that. So that way you can, especially if you're working from home, right? You want to be able to step out of your office and decompress. A lot of us do not have a drive home from work if we're doing this full time. So the days and the daily stressors, we can easily take that with us. So it could be as simple as you walking out the front door and walking back in coming from your office, right? And you should set your goals. Just set them. It could be weekly, it could be daily if you can, but if you don't know what you're doing that week, what are you doing, right? So in order to do this, you need to learn how to hack your life. Now, if you don't have a Calendly tool or some form of that, you need to get on that, because instead of going, well, I think I have this time, this day, and you're texting it back and forth, that's not gonna work. I simply say, hey, go ahead and go to this link and check on my calendar what works for you. It's not for them. That's for me. And it does a handy thing where it checks your personal and your business, multiple calendars, and that makes it very, very simple. Now, anybody that's been talking to me about email lately this weekend has known that I basically been like raving about this new tool that I found called Superhuman, and they're like, how long have you been using it? How many months? Not months, weeks. So I've incorporated AI to get myself to inbox zero, automate responses, just value my time. It's saving me hours per week in my inbox. Now, some of you might know this, but there's some weird people around here where we kind of track our sleep schedules and we say, hey, how'd you do last night, right? So I walk on a Zoom call with Tom Cotter. He's like, all right, everybody, let's go ahead and look at our sleep scores. Yeah, so but the importance of that is the fact that if you're not getting the right amount of sleep, you're not focused. You're cramming more things into your body that you need just to try to stay awake. You're gonna be focused and you have that improved focus and readiness for that day. So make sure you stay on some sort of routine. Again, going back to don't work at 10 p.m. at night. Now, you also need to learn how to leverage a team. Now, if you say, well, I don't have a team, I'm not specifically talking about that, though that is important. We have a certain set of skill sets that so if you're a part of a team like such as TST, like the guys have different skill sets than I do. Obviously, I'm a closer. I love doing this, but they have certain skill sets in recruiting and talking everyone up and actually helping them just modernize what they're doing so they can go next level themselves. But what I mean is once you start getting to this point in your life where you're like, man, I don't think I have time for social media and posting, then don't do it. You get somebody else to do that. Like, I've been approached multiple times this weekend, like, I love the content you're putting out. Well, I thank you. It's not me, you know? She's down there. So you need to leverage and outsource some of these things because what it does is it frees up your time. Administrative, like lead generation. When leads come in, I have an automated response. I said, thank you so much. Yeah, let me go ahead and get a proposal for you. And I just copy and paste text. And what ends up happening is it goes to my CSM, who then gets them booked on my calendar. And she's inputting all that data so I don't have to. So that when they're booked on my calendar, all I have to do is log in and essentially say, oh, yeah, they're right there. Okay, great. I can go ahead and call forth a proposal. So when you get to that point, you need to know what your time is worth and what your hourly rate is. When you're CEO of your own company, you have to know this. Also, take some time off. Just do it. Especially guys, we really can work ourselves to death. There's a great article with Forbes that said how taking a vacation could actually save your life. And lastly, a few things here that I want to leave you with is I want you to think beyond treasures. Yes, getting the contracts is great. Yes, having the money coming in the bank and have the bank bounce and not your checks bounce is really awesome too. However, once you get beyond that and that's not really the goal, you need to think about your time, your treasures, and your talents. What can you bring to the team? What can you bring into daily people's lives? Are you doing something pro bono off of a Facebook group saying, you know what, I'm not the guy that necessarily can check your inverter, but I know somebody that can. You have no monetary gain in that action, but yet you're helping people. And here's the strange thing about this. You have this correlation of the more people you help, the more money you make. Like, everybody says Expansion King. Those weren't really big contracts, but strangely, I did a lot of them, and I made a lot of money. So what I say to you, and I want to tell you, is if you lead with this and you think beyond just $1 and the salary, which you have to feed your family, and that's great, okay? That's super important. Once you do this, you then, when it is a crazy week, no contracted install is going right, and you want to write an angry email, pause, right? Go back to AI, see if it can clean it up for you. You know, when that happens, then you're like, oh, I'm doing this for more than just this. I'm doing this more than for just $1. And when you do that, you're just gonna elevate yourself. So what I want you to do is I want you to have your limit break. Take what you're learning this week, whether it's this week, today, this year. You should not be where you are today a year from now. You shouldn't be. Go out there and have your limit break. Thank you.